Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. So we're going to continue from where we left off here. So we got another day to investigate, and we're going to be trying to figure out exactly what happened that day that Professor Hairbrayne's invention blew up and killed Asman. So let's continue from where we left off here. The Return of the Great Departed Soul, Investigation Part 2. October, 2:41 p.m. Naruhodo's, legal consultancy. Oh, this room. It's been too long. It hasn't changed in the slightest, though. And it's been some 6 months, hasn't it? That's a long time for things to stay so familiar. I didn't know when you might return, and I wanted everything to be as you left it. But it has been some 6 months, it's true. So, is your father alright, Susie? What happened? My father? Yes, Professor Mikotoba, I mean. It was half a year ago, but that's why you went back to Japan. Because of the telegram you received saying he'd fallen ill for very high fever for some unknown reason. That's right. So I was surprised to learn you'd be coming back so soon. Surprised but happy. I think I wrote about it in my letter to you, that it was all a trick. My father is in fine health, and I'm obviously very relieved about that. Well, we're all delighted to have you back. It was quite by accident that I've been able to return to Europe, actually. It's because of a very grand conference called the International Forensic Science Symposium. The International Forensic, that's the same symposium Lord Strongheart mentioned. Anyway, I've arrived, safe and sound, and all that matters is that I'm here now. After all, I haven't yet fulfilled my promise to you, Iris. Oh? You must tell us everything that happened while you were back in Japan. Yes, of course, I shall. And there's one other thing. Something you wrote in your letter that particularly grabbed my attention. About you-know-who. About Kazuma. I know. I'll tell you all that I can. Converse. Okay, back in Britain? When I first arrived back in Japan, I really thought I'd never be allowed to return to Britain. But curiously, after that awful trial at the Supreme Court, Father's mood changed entirely. The awful trial? Oh yes. For the murder of Giselle Brett. Oh, you dressed as a man then, didn't you, Susie? Oh, well, yes. Since women are forbidden in the courtroom, I had no choice. Wow, amazing. I wish I'd seen it. Don't you, Runo? Yes, I suppose so. I want to play at being a lawyer now. I could wear a false mustache, maybe. I don't think any mustache could hide the fact that you're just 10 years old, Iris. There's something else I've been wanting to ask you, Miss Suzato. It's about the real reason why Professor Mikotoba summoned you back to Japan. You said in your letter it was something to do with that convict's loot we found in Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Yes, that, the dog, collar. It was really expensive, that's right. The very large dog collar we found with the bee emblem on it. I think that's the Hound of the Baskervilles. I think that's what that story was that Iris wrote, but why doesn't Sholmes want her to publish it? Why is Mikotoba interested in that story as well? It seems that Mr. Natsume included a drawing of the collar in the report he submitted about his time in Britain. I understand that when Father saw the report, he turned as white as a sheet. Why would that be, then? He knows something about it. Father came to Britain himself, of course, to study. It was some time ago now, but he stayed for 6 years. I can only imagine that something must have happened during that time. But if he refuses to tell me what it was, then I intend to find the answers for myself. And I've decided that I, for one, won't keep any more secrets. Oh, Susie. That's a very meaningful look Suzato-san's giving Iris there. Forensic Science Symposium. Lord Strongheart mentioned something about that symposium too. I think he said that investigative authorities from 40 different countries would attend. Yes, and from Japan, my father and a judge, and Judge G. Goku have been invited. It's something of an honor, I believe. Well, Professor Mikotoba is the leading expert in forensic medicine in our country, after all. But who's the other person you mentioned? A judge, did you say? Yes, His Excellency, Judge Shishiro Jigoku. You've met him, Mr. Naruhodo. Last year, in the Supreme Court. You can't possibly have forgotten. So he was the judge during the trial. That terrible trial of yours, when you were accused of murder. Ah, yes. I try to think of that as a positive turning point in my life these days. So the judge is in Britain too. Well, it was Judge Jigoku who presided over that trial. If I'm perfectly honest, I'd be happy never to see that man's face again in my life. Well, anyway, as Father was invited to the symposium, he agreed to me returning to Britain too. He won't actually arrive until next month, but, well, I couldn't wait. So I pleaded with him, and in the end he agreed to me going on ahead. Yes, about the symposium. It seems as though Lord Strongheart has put in an awful lot of work to make it happen. It's obviously very important. I believe it is, yes. As I understand it, Lord Strongheart organized the entire event himself. That's the highest Chief Justice in the land. He's really obsessed with that forensic, because this is the time when, you know, when forensic technology started first being used. You know, the first thing was fingerprints. Fingerprints started becoming big in this time period because they had an entire book. They didn't have computers, but they had entire books of, like, convicts' fingerprints, and they would try to match that. I think he's hoping that by achieving exceptional results, he'll get the job of Attorney General. The most senior position in the British justice system. He's hoping to use his power to create the world's finest policing institution. That's what Father said anyway. Apparently, it's Lord Strongheart's lifelong ambition. Does Professor Mikotoba know Lord Strongheart personally then? I wonder. Actually, Lord Strongheart gave me a long speech all about this very subject only recently. Yeah, it was like 200-something things. I was like, no, please don't, and he did it anyways. But I sort of lost the will to live early on and didn't really listen to much of it. Yeah, it was too many things. How trying for you. Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett. The woman whose unforgivable actions ended in me being wrongly accused of a crime I didn't commit. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson. Yeah, we don't want to tell Iris that. That's her father. Yes, Giselle Brett. That's a name I won't forget for as long as I live. The extraordinary thing is, though, it seems it's a name we should all forget. Sorry? Since the incident, our government's intelligence services have been investigating Miss Brett. But it turns out that an Englishwoman by the name of Giselle Brett didn't actually exist. Didn't exist, but how can that be? How can it be? She was using a fake name. Her name wasn't Giselle Brett. It was a pseudonym. Her real name was Shin, and she wasn't a visiting student either. That was a front. A front? Who on earth was she then? Miss A. Shin. Her name is literally all our intelligence services have been able to ascertain about her. Nobody knows why or even how she came to be in Japan. It's a complete mystery. But that makes no sense. It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. What could the woman have been up to? I'm afraid I really don't know. The only thing we can be so sure of is that she had some business in our country that we don't yet understand. Now she's dead, so we might not know. Now she's been killed. And literally, he said exactly what I said. It's like I'm predicting these lines a lot of times. While all the questions surrounding her existence remain unanswered. I'm afraid so. Shin. Who on earth was she? And why do I feel as though I've heard that name before somewhere? I'm trying to think. Have I heard Shin before? Have I heard it somewhere? I'm trying to think. After my friend Ray's trial, the reporter who actually killed Miss Brett said something very strange. Yeah, he confronted Mikotoba. I know the truth. I know he had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... Obviously, I couldn't ask him to elaborate at that time. But later, I visited the man in his prison cell and asked him what he was going to say about Kazuma-sama. And what did you learn? After he died on the voyage to Great Britain, his body should have been laden at the port of Hong Kong and passed into the care of the consulate staff there. Should have been? Well, it turns out that his body never arrived. What? It just disappeared. Kazuma's body disappeared? What? And the reporter was confronting Mikotoba on that. Is Kazuma really alive, I wonder? Did he fake his death? That's what I'm starting to wonder. I wonder if Kazuma faked his death. That's what I'm starting to wonder now at this point. Maybe Kazuma is actually alive. That could be a possibility. What? Kazuma's body vanished. Yeah, I'm starting to think that he could have faked his death. Our government tried to cover the fact up, it seems. They erected a grave on the cliffs by our hometown. Except, Kazuma-sama isn't there. Did Professor Mikotoba know about this? Yes, it would seem that he did. But he didn't tell me. They're still investigating what happened to Kazuma-sama's body as we speak. I just don't believe it. And what is this acute feeling of apprehension I have all of a sudden? The Kazuma mystery. Thinking back now, some of the things that happened on the SS Burya were definitely strange. I mean, after he died, we never saw his body again, did we? Could it be that he's actually still alive? Stop it, Mr. Naruhodo. It's too much to bear. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Just thinking about the possibility pains me so very much. Well, you can't rule it out though, Suzato. It's definitely a possibility. His body disappeared. No one knows where it is. Was he even checked for a pulse then? Like, now I'm starting to think that he's alive. And literally, Ryu is saying exactly what I was thinking like a minute ago. Cast your mind back for a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. When Kazuma-sama was discovered, Mr. Sholmes was there, wasn't he? And he definitely examined the body. I remember it clearly. Ah, you're right. So if Kazuma hadn't actually been dead at all, it would mean that Mr. Sholmes had lied to us. But there's no reason why he would possibly have done such a thing. This might be going back further. You know, that's... Sholmes... It's possible Sholmes could have lied. I suppose that's true. Yes, remember that list that we got at the end of Case 5? It was that government correspondence. That government correspondence, there was like 4 names on that list, and Kazuma's name was on it. The idea that he might still be alive somewhere. It wants to fill me with hope, but I can't let it. Because if it turned out not to be true, then I'd be back at the bottom of that awful pit of despair again. I'm terrified of what that might do to me. Oh, Miss Suzato. I know she's given the idea that the thought it deserves. It's Suzato-san we're talking about after all. So I probably shouldn't push it now. Oh, here's Iris. It must be about a year ago now. I wrote a really long story based on some of my father's old notes. It's about one of Hurley's greatest exploits. I called it the Hound of the Baskervilles. Yup, just like I said. But then, Mr. Sholmes forbade you from publishing it, and put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. So nobody knows anything about it, apart from Hurley and I. But for some reason, you knew the title of it, didn't you, Susie? Oh, it sounds so exciting. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I should love to read it. Yeah, so she knew the title. And you wouldn't tell me how you'd come to know it. Yes, but I made you a promise that I would explain one day, didn't I? I think it's time. Oh. I want to hear this. I'm only sorry I've had to keep it from you for so long, Iris. The Hound of the Baskervilles. How did she know the title? It was completely by accident that I came to know the title of your manuscript, Iris. It was a short while before we left Japan. I was cleaning Father's study and I saw something on his writing desk. A large box of papers. There was a label affixed to the box that was written in English. It read, "The Hound of the Baskervilles." What? My Baskerville story? Of course, I had no idea what it was at the time. But Father came in and... Suzato, what are you doing? Oh, Father. Did you look at those papers? No, I simply read the label, that's all. Well, put it out of your mind. Sorry? Forget that you ever saw it, and certainly don't tell anybody else about this. Do you understand? But what was Iris's manuscript doing in Japan? I have no idea. But now, how did she know that that was Iris's manuscript, though? But when I heard Iris mention the word Baskerville that day, that title just slipped out. Oh, I would never have guessed that it was an unpublished account of one of Mr. Sholmes' exploits. When I returned to Japan, I asked Father to explain, but he refused to answer any of my questions, and there was no sign of the big box in his office. What is going on here? That's really all I know about it. I have no doubt that Father has a very good reason for being so secretive about it, but still. I made up my mind to explain myself to both of you. Well, thank you for being so honest, Susie. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm ready to start investigating if you are. I've committed every detail about the case to memory. And Iris has told me about the disturbing happenings at the Waxwork Museum as well. So, you're fully abreast of the situation already, Miss Suzato. I expected nothing less, to be honest. I would think our first port of call should be to investigate this Mr. Drebber, the engineer responsible for building the elaborate machine that was used to effect this extraordinary trick. Yes, a conjurer of sorts, by the sound of it. Well known in the fields of science and magic. Then we need to go and arrest him. Well, yes. He must know the truth behind this case, so I agree we do really need to find the man. It sounds like it's a case of tracking someone down, which is a job for the police or a great detective. Are we supposed to guess who she might be thinking of? We don't have much time, so we need to get started straight away, I think. Good idea. Well, best of luck then. Oh, you're not coming today? I'm going to Brixton Road shortly for the herb market. But let me know later how you got on, won't you? That was a little abrupt. The pull of the herb market must be strong. Okay. Can I present stuff? Well, I could, but, hang on. Miss Suzato, do you see this? You have such great expectation in your eyes, Mr. Naruhodo, but I'm afraid nothing particular useful comes to mind at all. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure what I was expecting, really. Okay, let's go, to another place then here. Sholmes' Suite. 23rd October. Sholmes' Suite. Okay, nothing here. We can visit the Lord Chief Justices. 23rd October, British Supreme Court. Lord Chief Justice's office. Oh, who's that standing besides Lord Strongheart? I wonder. I've never seen her before. Ah, the young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you've thrown the entire government into disarray as a result. Oh? You mean because of Professor Hairbrayne's experiment? Sham science being demonstrated at London's Great Exhibition. The country's been made to look foolish, and now politicians are scrambling to respond. Well, that's not my fault. I just took the case. Lord Van Zieks is in Whitehall as we speak, giving an emergency briefing. Oh dear, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. None of this is your responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken in. Okay, good. At least he's not blaming us. The special dispensation that prevents investigation of the scene will be annulled later today. Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with that scrap metal in no time. It's scrap metal now, is it? Who is this? Until later then, Lord Strongheart. Wow, so these characters, like, literally, why is it that so many of the prosecutors and, like, the government officials look like vampires in this game for some reason? It's like, yes, thank you. Who was that? That was Dr. Courtney Sith, Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner. She's leading the forensic investigation team's handling of this case. She was just delivering her report about the victim, in fact. Oh, I see. About Mr. Asman. Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to reevaluate its findings. So, for people that don't know, a coroner is basically like a police doctor, but not like a doctor that's like examining like you know, people and trying to get them healthy and stuff. It's basically a police doctor that examines dead bodies. That's what a coroner is. It's sometimes the coroner will arrive at the scene. The coroner also has a their own building. And basically, the dead body is brought there. The coroner talks to the detectives. The coroner basically briefs the detectives on the cause of death, time of death, stuff like that. And that's why you have the coroner's report, you know, as evidence. So that's, you know, one thing that Ace Attorney is accurate in is the coroner's report and stuff like that. The coroner, real life, you know, police doctor, that is a thing. And, you know, this has been going, you know, back over well over 100 years. And examine the body, tell the police what time the victim died, how they died, you know, anything else that they might have taken, like if they were drinking or using drugs or something like that. Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to reevaluate its findings. I don't have time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you'll have to ask her directly. You can find her in the forensics laboratory, okay? Right. Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 7 minutes and 39 seconds of my time. Okay, so he's not running quite so spectacularly late anymore. The forensic investigation team. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before? The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago, now unofficially, of course, to pave the way. Goodness, a year ago. At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensics division. And once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and criminals will suffer dearly. What do you mean? For too long, those scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes. But London's scum is about to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell. I intend to see it to it personally. Wow, he's really serious. By creating the finest police force the world has ever known to protect our honor and our future. Look at those eyes. He means every word. Dr. Sif is an example of extremely reliable coroner. When I officially establish the forensics division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikatoba. Oh, yes, my lord? Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan. Yes, that's right. I understand he will arrive at the beginning of next month. Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikatoba, I mean. It was many years ago now, but yes. I remember Dr. Mikatoba very well. Oh, so he knows him. If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student. It was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago in fact. Mikatoba was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jigoku accompanied him as a young promising judge. The punctualness and politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way. I didn't think that you were. Dr. Mikotoba studied forensics at one of London's large hospitals, St. Sinners, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Sif was also there, as it happens. St. Sinners. What a weird name for a hospital. Then Dr. Sif knows my father, does she? She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt their paths crossed regularly. But I've no doubt they knew each other superficially. After all, Dr. Mikotoba was here studying his subject for some 6 years in total. Now, okay. 6 years. That's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years. So he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years. It was a rather turbulent time at home. Oh. Perhaps father wanted a reason to get away. What do you mean? Why? You know, and they're talking like that he was really young, but it was only 6 years ago. You know, it wouldn't have been that much, you know, I know 6 years is a long time, but, you know, he's an adult, and 6 years, you know, he wouldn't necessarily be that much younger. Well, clearly something was going on at that time. Something with her mother, probably. Lord Van Zieks. Let's see here. I wanted to ask you about Lord Van Zieks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago by a mass murderer known as Professor who targeted nobles and royalty. Is that right? You Japanese are a thorough lot. You've done your research well. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper. What? Why? When his brother, Clint Van Zieks, was murdered, it was just after young Barrack had graduated from the University of London and became a prosecutor. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing, rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Barrack Van Zieks went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind. Oh my word. So Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper. It's the ghost of his brother? Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles. Oh yes, Lord Strongheart. Go ahead. It's about Professor Hairbrayne's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains, if possible. Are you well-versed in science, then? Not in the slightest, in fact. You could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently. Well, the special dispensation legally preventing an investigation of the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Sif's team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But I suppose, until then, there's no harm in you looking at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing. Thank you. Being able to look at it is better than nothing. And I'll be able to see it too. Your time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls. We are extremely sorry to have troubled you when you are so busy, my lord. I have important matters to attend to, in preparation for the symposium, you understand. Okay. A new location has been added, okay. Let's go to the prison. Let's see Professor Hairbrayne now. He's probably crushed right now. What the hell is he doing? Local prison, cell 11. Where did he get all this chalk from? What's he doing? He's... oh my. The whole wall of the cell is covered in mathematical equations. And he's still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. And who is this young lady? My name is Suzato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you. I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in the court this morning. Oh no, 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 no. The whole thing, the whole miserable affair. It all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Hairbrayne. What have you been working on in your cell? Now, the thing is, I suck at math. I do. You guys might think that I'm good at math because, you know, a lot of video games, I'm always, you know, showing how to make money and how to rank up in video games and stuff like that, but, you know, that's just for video games. You know, when it comes to, like, you know, equations and stuff like that, I'm definitely not good at this, you know. I'm much stronger at science and at history, not really at math. I mean, this kind of is science, but it's both science and math together. So, yeah, math is not my strongest subject. I was just never really that great at math. Oh, ha ha ha, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? Ah, no, actually. This is my autobiography. What? How's that an autobiography? Your autobiography? How I was diddled and fiddled by Albert Harebrayne. I found that I could represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers in an ambitious set of simultaneous equations. Really? I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took for the Kinesis machine, you see. So it's going to be a new serial publication from next month, Part 1, An Odd Birth and Odd Upbringing. You know, that's like one of the smallest, like, books that I've seen. You can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh, yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was fiddled, by the pair of them. By Asman, and by that aloof engineer Drebber. We're not going to have to sit through an explanation of all these equations, are we? Yeah, I wouldn't want that. And I don't know, maybe I would have preferred to sit through Lord Strongheart's like 200-something like verses instead of like listening to the equations converse. This morning's trial. Everything I believed in has been turned on its head. My research, Mr. Asman, the Kinesis machine, my hypothesis even. I'm sorry it's come to this. There was really no other way. No, it's not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end, there was nothing worth protecting. Well, at least he realizes it now. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in the court this morning, I realized something. Oh? If you'd done something wrong without knowing it, you've still done something wrong, logically. It makes no difference if you were aware of it or not. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame still lies with me. Well, you know, it really depends. You know, it really depends, because ignorance of the law is not an excuse, but, you know, it really depends on, you know, exactly what he did. In this case, you know, he didn't really do anything bad, if you think about it. He was basically tricked by a scam con artist and his con artist engineer, Trickster. So he was basically scammed by two guys who he drew plans for a machine that they were supposed to build. So if anything, the fault lies with the two scammers. He was tricked. He's a victim as well. So whatever happened with that machine is not his fault, because they were the two that built it. So whatever happened afterwards is not his fault. But here's something else. I'll tell you something. There is actually a unique crime called strict liability in relation to this, you know, since this is a game about law. Now, in American court of law, in order to prove for most crimes that somebody is guilty, you have to demonstrate both mens rea and actus reus. Now, mens rea is the guilty state of mind. So that means that the person intended to commit the crime, they knew they were committing a crime. Actus reus is the guilty act itself. However, though, there are crimes that are where basically you only have the actus reus. So you have the guilty act, but not the guilty state of mind. Now, what is an example of a crime like that? A perfect example of a crime like that is, for instance, say that somebody's working in retail, right? And when somebody's working in retail, that somebody will come in, show them an ID, and try to buy alcohol. The cashier looks at the ID, checks the birth date, the person's over 21, sells them the alcohol, they leave. Then they find out the ID was actually fake. So the driver's license was fake, the card that he gave him was fake, and he just sold a minor alcohol. That is actually an example of a strict liability crime. And some of these fake IDs are so well done that, like, you can't tell. The thing is, though, is there was these kids that I remember when I was working in retail that they actually came in to try to buy alcohol several times. I could tell these, you know, were fake IDs because they were out of state a lot of times. They didn't even know their address, so you'd ask them what their address was to just repeat it. They wouldn't know it on the ID because it was fake. They didn't bother to memorize it. So it's always out of state IDs, you know, stuff like that. And it's just, you know, you'll feel it in your gut when it's fake. But sometimes you won't. Sometimes the ID is so convincing you won't. And one time a police officer, I actually saw a police officer actually take one of the fake IDs because my supervisor at the time ended up calling the police, and the police came. The police officer took the fake ID, scanned it, and it turned out that the fake ID actually passed the police's scanner and said it was real when the ID was actually fake. So there is actually, you know, this is actually a real crime itself. There are several crimes called strict liability crimes, basically going over this. I know I've been talking about this for a few minutes, where you can commit a crime without realizing it. And so, in my personal opinion, I think that that's stupid, that somebody could get prosecuted for selling alcohol when somebody shows them a fake ID, because then how are you supposed to exactly know what ID is fake and what isn't? If it can pass the police detector, if the police officer can't even tell, then how is a cashier supposed to tell? But then somebody can be charged with that? That's a bit ridiculous. So that's just something I want to talk about law in regards there. Oh, Professor. He believed in me this morning, you know. Barrick did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. Yep. No. Barrick wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believed it. Did he? I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. Van Zieks' motivation. Wonder what this is. I want to hear this. After that terrible accident happened, nobody would believe in my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was anyone other than Barrick, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. And in that case, you would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Barrick insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul. Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that Barrick is a completely bad person, but I wouldn't say he's a kind-hearted soul either. But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly, that part of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. And what about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Mr. Asman. Do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? Yes. I'm sorry to say, that does seem likely, yes. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. He looked over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all humanity and must be pursued. He was so enthused, he was so emphatic. But in reality, he was the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems. Yeah, he was a gang boss. I still can't believe it. You know, you'd think the scientist would do his research when he's talking to this guy who's going to finance your whole project, who this guy is, as the machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic. It probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually. But the scale of it, it wasn't just some small trick. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try to earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To get through all of that, only to be taken for a complete fool. It's too rotten to believe. It is, I agree. And that's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Asman is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer. Mr. Enoch Drebber. Drebber the engineer. Is he an engineer or a magician or a swindler? I think he's the third one. It was about a year ago Mr. Asman first brought Drebber to meet me at my laboratory. Since then, I've met him many times to discuss details about the kinesis machine. But at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist. Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He was a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent in conversation. I see. But he's just really, but in reality, he's just a really smart con artist. Because a lot of smart con artists, you know, they will talk very fancy to make it seem like they know everything that they're talking about, when in reality they don't. They can convince people that they're cops, they're doctors, scientists, whatever. There have been con artists like that in history who have pretended to be different people, when in reality they didn't know anything about the job that they were pretending to do. But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no more clues you can give us to his whereabouts? I'm sorry. We only ever discussed the kinesis machine. Nothing else. Although, just once, I did visit his workshop. What workshop? Drebber's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my great machine. Where is this place? And you didn't think of telling us this before? Why? Why didn't you mention this before? Wow, I predicted what he said. Again, Enoch Drebber's workshop. There's every chance we might find a man there. Drebber's workshop. So you've been to Drebber's place of work, then? Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place. Plenty of room to construct a kinesis machine, you see. Where can we find it? We have to go there at once. There's a good chance that we'll find Drebber there. Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure. As in, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. How could you visit a place but you don't know where it is? I'm so sorry. I was more than half expecting that. You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there. He blindfolded you. He wasn't taking any chances then. The place was incredible, the pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best, a special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. The indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumers across the world should forget their secret formulas and use that instead. What do you think, Miss Suzato? Yao, they machine for your next birthday? I can't read that. I've never used any kind of perfume, Mr. Naruhodo, and I'm not sure I'd like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor. You don't have a business card from Mr. Drebber, for example. Do you, like, he has to remember at least some kind of hint, like the street at least, like, you know, a unique building, some noise or something like that. The man was clearly very cautious, Miss Suzato. I'm sure he never would have. Aha! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. It's right here. Look. What? Let me see that. Throw etiquette to the wind, why don't you? Enoch Drebber, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address. No. Oh well. I can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful. Enoch Drebber's business card. Though it shows only the man's name, there is no address. Let me look at this. This could have some kind of hint. What's this? This dark smudge here, is that oil? I think perhaps it's machine oil. Ah yes, possibly. Professor Hairbrayne mentioned something about the oil Mr. Drebber uses, didn't he? He said it was specially imported, very high quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Well, then you could see who's importing that into Britain. That'll be one way to track this person down. Yes, that's right, but more importantly, that it's more fragrant than the finest perfume, so excuse me for a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all. Don't worry. I expect that's just because there's such a tiny amount on here. And, What I'll say is, the professor was blindfolded, but you don't think that that's suspicious, that he blindfolded you? Like... I'm gonna present him with a few things. Let's present him with the business card here. Professor Hairbrayne, what do you make of this? Oh yes, that's just what we need to prove my hypothesis, isn't it? No. No. Oh my god, he said it. How am I predicting what these characters are saying? It's nothing to do with your hypothesis, actually. Then take it away. I don't want to be bothered with anything that doesn't assist my science. Alright, keep your abundant hair on. The crossbow. Professor Hairbrayne, what do you make of this? Okay, he's not going to answer it, but I wanted to show him the crossbow because he said he saw Enoch holding it that day. Maybe this. Nope, not... Okay, let's see here. A lot of places still visit experimentation stage. 23rd October, the Great Exhibition grounds, foot of the Crystal Tower. That Gina? I had no idea there were so many people in the world. I know what you mean. It's really packed here today. It feels as though it's taken us 2 hours just to make our way through the crowds to this point. Has it? I shut my brain down so I didn't really notice, to be honest. Gosh, I do wish I had your absence of mind sometimes, Mr. Naruhodo. There you are. I had a feeling, you lot would show your mugs before long. Oh, Inspector Gregson. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm literally predicting what these characters are saying. It's like, I see you're hard at work, as usual. Warm greetings to you. I do hope you've been keeping well since last we met. Why is he being so nice all of a sudden? What's with all the ceremony? We just saw each other in court this morning. Not you, Sunshine. The gentlewoman so loyally at your side. Oh. Why, thank you, Inspector. How good of you to notice. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but he's still a proper English gentleman at heart, I suppose. As you probably guessed, we were hoping to investigate the scene some more. Right. Well, that's the young trainee's domain. Oi, get over here, Gina. Oh, Gina's gonna see Suzato again. She seems to be busy playing with a puppy, probably giving it a traditional East End training. Gina, she's a police officer now. Amazing, isn't it? She's a good kid, actually. Heart's in the right place, anyway. She's got the detection bug, if you ask me. Yup, I think she'll follow in my footsteps nicely. What do you mean? I'm being transferred. It's time for me to say, toodle-o to London. Oh no, really? That's a bit sudden, isn't it? Well, she's not gonna take over the head inspector's, job right away. Where are you going to be posted, then? We'll come to see how you're getting along. Haha, not likely, but you're welcome to try. If you don't mind, a trip to France, that is. France! To France! I'll be working in the Paris Police Prefecture. Should be right up my alley. But it's a different country, it's a different language. But France, it's an entirely different country. Again, I don't understand, why would you be sent there? That's the way the adult world works, Sunshine. Now don't go poking your nose in where it's not wanted. I'm intending to take the kid with me when I go. What? You're taking Gina to Paris? Well, I can't leave her here in London. Who knows what would become of her? I suppose he's worried she'd slip back into slipping her hands into people's pockets and purses. I don't think he's worried about her pickpocketing, Mr. Naruhodo. I think he's worried about the Reaper. Oh, of course. So that's playing on Inspector Gregson's mind too, isn't it? So Gina was found not guilty, remember that, and whoever is found not guilty is murdered by the Reaper, which means that she's a target. Now, the Reaper doesn't mean Barrick. Barrick denies being the Reaper, but somebody is killing the people that are found not guilty in trials. Anyway, I haven't mentioned any of this to Gina, so don't go blabbing, you hear me? No, of course not. I've got to keep that diva safe and sound. Until all this is over, at least. Oi, did you just call me a bloomin' diva again? So you heard that, did ya? Right, well, any questions about the scene, you can put them to my capable detective diva here. Alright, you heard the boss. Inspector Lestrade's in charge here now. I suppose I better keep my word and not mention anything about Paris. So, Gina, you've got a new dog, have you? Isn't he great? Toby's his name. Oh, how delightful. He's absolutely adorable. Yes, the dog does seem lovely. But it's not the not-so-lovely Inspector Gregson that's playing in my mind, to be honest. Investigating the scene. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. It's around here. You can do what you like. Oh, that's alright, is it? I'm really curious what kind of accent Gina has, because she definitely has like a really thick accent, like just when you read her dialogue. Like, you don't even hear their voices in the game, but you can tell that they have an accent, really heavy one indeed. I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here. Yes, Toby. The machine that exploded must be at the top of those stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind. Sorry, you can't go up there, Suze. Oh? It's like I told Otto yesterday, even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one. That's, why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The Forensic something? The Forensic Investigation Team. Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah. But isn't it the case the special dispensation has been lifted? I think so. I don't really get it, to be truthful with you. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know. What was his name again? Lord Strange something, Lord Strongheart. He already gave us permission. I'm not sure that's quite right, Tina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps. That's the one, yeah. Apparently, he's always watching the time or something. Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. Hey, you what? You've met him. Last time the boss was called to go and see, he waited for 3 hours at the Cove's office and came back sniveling. Tragic. Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene as long as we touch nothing. Oh yeah. Honestly. Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. So, you're still saying all this is above board, are you? I'm sure everything will be fine. That's really would be tragic. Alright then, them's the stairs, off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. Today's trial. It was great, weren't it? I had a right laugh. It was new one on me that. You know, being in court and not spending the whole time worrying I'm about to be found out. You did keep an awful lot of secrets in all your previous court appearances, didn't you? Yeah, and Otto's made things hard for me every single time and all. Just doing my job, Gina. But watching someone else get it in the neck is a lot of fun, actually. It was amazing when you showed that dodgy professor's dodgy experiment was a total fix. The dodgy professor, as you put it, Gina, is Mr. Naruhodo's client. Yes, I'm starting to wish he wasn't, though. It's the boss I feel sorry for. Sent off to do the impossible. What do you mean? He's supposed to arrest, that other cove, ain't he? And in time for tomorrow and all. You know, the dodgy engineer. What's his name again? Enoch Drebber. Mr. Drebber, you mean? Enoch Drebber. That's the one, yeah. So the police are looking for this mysterious man with the black monocle. I guess they would be. It's putting too much on the boss, if you ask me. He says it's given, I'm gut ache. Oh dear. But I do wonder if that isn't actually from all the fried food. The engineer's whereabouts. So Scotland Yard are trying to track down Mr. Enoch Drebber. I wonder if they've had any luck. He's really funny looking. Got 2 eyes what don't match. Stole a glimpse of a picture off him earlier. I mean, I didn't actually pinch it or nothing. The old devil's got it. Sorry, who? You know, that Scowlin' Reaper what's always glugging down glasses of that blood-red plunk. Barrack. Lord Van Zieks. He's always at it in for me, that cove. Don't know what he's always scowling about that, about mind. Probably would have been a pretty good boss as it goes. He'd rather be the Reaper's apprentice than a detective's trainee. The way I see it, if the choice is between a chip-guzzling detective and a chalice-glugging demigod, you'd equally badly, off of both. I suppose you're right. I ain't thought of it like that. Glad we've put that one to bed. Anyway, the point is, everyone at the yard's dead set on finding the fishy engineer. But there don't seem to be no clues to go on, so they're stuck. There's nothing that can lead us to Drebber at all. Where did you find that little mutt then, Gina? I think that Toby is also the name of Sherlock Holmes' dog. I could be wrong on that, but someone correct me if I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, where did you find, that little mutt then, Gina? Oi, don't be so flamin' rude, Otto. Slight overreaction, don't you think? He ain't no mutt, alright. Toby's... how did they put it? Oh yeah, a bona fide detective. Sorry? I've given him a proper title and everything. It's Chief Inspector Toby to you. More senior than Inspector Gregson, is he? Oh. He's a police dog, is he? The police recruit dogs now. I've heard that they're already being used officially in Germany as part of their city policing. They're used for chasing criminals and such like. They have a wonderful sense of smell, after all. I have a fairly good sense of smell myself as it happens. I can tell undergarments that have been freshly laundered from undergarments that haven't— what? Okay, that's nothing compared to this little fella, Otto. Oh, really? According to what the boss said, once Toby's ears got a good whiff of your drawers, he could chase that scent to the other side of the world. What? To the other side of the world? You mean he can swim? Mr. Naruhodo, I think you may have missed the point by rather a wide margin. I just can't believe this little dog has such an incredible skill. I'm telling you, Otto, there's gonna be more and more dogs doing their bit for the police in the future. Yes, I agree. Right. One of these days, they'll be barking orders at us lot, not the other way around. Oh dear. Sorry, Gina. I don't think I agree with your vision quite that much. Well, anyway, whatever you think about that, Toby's ear is Britain's first police dog. I found him down the East End the other day. Someone had just chucked him out on the street. There you go. I knew she'd lifted him from somewhere. Oh, Gina, you're such a kind-hearted soul, aren't you? To children and to animals. Okay. We're still not allowed to go up there. The Crystal Tower. I can't believe I'm seeing it at such close proximity with my own eyes. You've really been looking forward to the great exhibition, haven't you, Miss Suzato? Oh yes, when I found out that I had to return to Japan, I'm afraid I cursed my luck. But here you are, back in London, gazing up at the magnificent tower. I know. Perhaps I was wrong to curse my luck so harshly. Okay. What a shame that the symbolic landmark of the Great Exhibition has been damaged like that. Yes, unfortunately. The birdcage crashed in the most prominent position possible. It's the gods giving us a warning, if you ask me. Man must travel under his own steam and not cut corners with instantaneous kinesis. But imagine what might have happened if the birdcage landed in a slightly different location. The death toll could have been far worse. So I think perhaps it was a blessing in disguise. Well, the gods are benevolent, obviously. I did say it was just a warning. Man must travel under his own steam, or next time birdcages will rain down on all of you. Your faith is as much stronger than I realized. Well, how do you think I passed the entrance exam for the Yume University? It wasn't by studying alone. These stairs lead up to the experimentation stage. Let's go and see what we can find out. October 23rd, the Great Exhibition grounds, experimentation stage. Oh my, so this is the machine. That was used to deceive people into thinking instantaneous kinesis has taken place. Yes, that's right. Or rather, it was the machine. It's a little worse for wear at the moment. What extraordinary length Professor Hairbrayne went in order to obtain the research grant. No. The professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it. Yes, of course. It is amazing, though, isn't it? The scale of the world, the whole affair, is so very British. You're right about that. You'd never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure. Oh, look. Is that... the Barrack Van Zieks? What's he doing here? So, I think we're more or less done here, aren't we? Shall we, Miss Suzato? Already? He is the Reaper, remember? We do well to keep our distance, I think. But we have permission to be here, from the top. We're perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine, as long as we don't touch anything. From the top? Do you mean Lord Strongheart? Exactly. So we can stay here and stare at this wreckage for as long as we like. She could have been at the center of the explosion here, and it wouldn't have bent her steel will. Let's see about talking to Barrack here. Least approachable man in the world, winner. 10 years in a row. Be strong, Mr. Naruhodo. Your country and your assistants stand firm behind you. Lord Van Zieks. What? Well, beautiful weather we're having, isn't it? I thought I was making it quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently, you Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs. Oh, I read them. So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited. Well, the thing is... Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate. On the condition that we didn't disturb anything. And yet you've managed to disturb me. Never mind. State your business, then. Come to think of it, there are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Van Zieks about. Not at least of which is that awful case, even though it's nothing to do with this case. Ask away, Mr. Naruhodo. You won't know unless you try. Your brother Clint. So, Clint was the name of your older brother, I understand. Lord Van Zieks. You Nipponese. I always have to be on guard whenever you're around. What? So you've been investigating me, have you? Oh, no. It's not like that. Well, alright, it is a bit like that. My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Van Zieks family. But tragically, a vicious killer took him from us. The professor, you mean. What's he laughing about here? Is something funny? That's the extent of what you've discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised. Sorry, there's more to it then? Lackluster work is very much your trademark, isn't it? Ah, you're too kind. Are you going to tar all Nipponese with the same brush next? So tell me, what's your interest in that historic incident? As it happens, Lord Van Zieks, there's rather a curious case that comes to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork by any chance? I am, naturally. I believe that since last month, I feature in one of the displays there, for public scorn. Of course the infamous Reaper of the Bailey would have to be exhibited, wouldn't he? Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place, and held for ransom. A particular waxwork? Which... Wait, you mean... Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak. I was unaware of that. And he's the one that telling us that we need to do our research. He's turned as white as a sheet. Are the police trying to locate the engineer, Mr. Drebber, already? Surely that goes without saying. Oh no, my controller. I gotta charge my controller. I'm sorry, guys. It died at the worst moment. We're very keen to see him found as well. The trouble is, we don't have much to go on, aside from the description of the man we heard in court earlier. Which, according to Professor Hairbrayne, was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle. So I was just wondering. I mean, I realize it's probably not possible, but, we'd very much appreciate any more clues you can give us. Wow, Suzato-san really knows how to take the bull by the horns. Fine, why not? I have a photograph of the man here from an investigation 10 years ago. That's Enoch Drebber, though it appears he already had the black monocle at the time. What? Oh, no, nothing. I was just surprised that you shared that with us. We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow, which means we have to do everything we possibly can to track him down in the short time available. So why wouldn't I show the photograph? What is it about Lord Van Zieks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all. Photograph of the print of the engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It's hard to make out, but he appears to be wearing a monocle of black glass. Oh, this guy, the assistant here. This is the Van Zieks' protege here. And, you know, I'm starting to think, is this Kazuma? That's just what I'm starting to think, because this guy wears a mask. He doesn't say anything at all. So I'm just wondering at that point, because if Kazuma's not dead, could he be the Reaper's assistant? That's what I'm curious about. Is he the one that's committing these murders? Because that could be entirely possible. I don't know why he would do that, why he would be the Reaper's assistant, but I'm starting to think there's a reason this guy wears a mask. Ah, the file I requested for the trial tomorrow. Thank you. Look at Suzato, she's like, what the hell? Are you alright? Who is this man, Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Van Zieks' apprentice, apparently. So I'm not the only one. Suzato-san can see it too. Lord Van Zieks, may we speak with your apprentice for a moment? With him? Why? Kazuma-sama. That's what she was saying. Yup. Apprentice. That's what she was thinking. Kazuma? I don't believe it. Your posture, your presence. It can only be. It's you, isn't it, Kazuma-sama? So I literally called it just now. I felt something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure. As if I knew him somehow. Can it really be you, Kazuma? Well, wait! Too late. What's going on here? Your apprentice. What is your interest in my apprentice exactly? You act as if you know the man or something. Well, since when has he been in your care? I don't really recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain 6 months ago. Lord Strongheart introduced him to me about 3 months ago now, with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor. But he didn't tell you why, did he? The man appears to be suffering from amnesia. He's forgotten every last detail about himself. He has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything. Tomorrow, he will appear in court at my side. What? He's to serve as my judicial assistant, on Lord Strongheart's orders. He'll be in court with us? Well, this is gonna be really awkward right now. Remember that Kazuma hit his head the last time we saw him and we believed that he was dead. Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course. Oh, yes, thank you. I definitely saw a reaction there. When Suzato-san called out like that, it really seemed to hit a nerve. When she called out Kazuma-sama. Can I present him with anything here? Oh, I have this here. What's that? It's just something I was hoping to ask your opinion about, that's all. It's a serious crime for the defense to attempt to extract information from the prosecution by illegal means. It's not illegal. Alright, I get the message. But I don't see what's illegal about me asking. Okay. Let's examine this scene, see if we can find anything here of relevance. The cage. This wasn't here yesterday. Really? But if I'm not mistaken, it's the cage in which the victim was standing before he was apparently beamed through the air. That's right, the bird cage. According to what Professor Hairbrayne said in court, it's made of wood. Or more precisely, Japanese cypress, I think. And despite having been in the explosion, and then falling from a great height, it's relatively unharmed. What wonderfully durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruhodo? I'd understood that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. I suppose they must have brought it back here when they'd finished their work. But sadly, not with the body inside it. No, that's right. I know we were given strict instructions not to touch anything, but still. This is too important a piece of evidence to overlook. We might need it for the trial. The wooden cage was used for Professor Hairbrayne's experiment. This cage with the victim inside crashed down to Crystal Tower. See if there's something we can... What is this? A hole in the bottom? Ah, look here, Miss Suzato. Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height? Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying down into the Crystal Tower below. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters, leaving the man inside tragically dead. Is there anything else that we're missing about this cage here? I think that's pretty much it. Wonder if I can present that to Van Zieks. Oh, no, I can't. What a terrible explosion it must have been. Even the steel girders have bucked and twisted in the blast. And what they call the birdcage was right in the middle of it all, just here. But look, Mr. Naruhodo, that metal grill on the floor. Looks as though it's designed to open. It does, doesn't it? If the floor had opened at the precise moment the explosion occurred, the birdcage could have dropped through and disappeared from sight. I don't think there's any doubt that this was a very elaborate hoax, is there? You've already met that masked man, hadn't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, yesterday, in fact, at Lord Van Zieks' office. I see. And if Kazuma-sama really is still alive, it means that Mr. Sholmes lied to us. I know. We're going to need to speak to him about that. You're going to have to leave now. The forensic investigation team are due to arrive shortly. If they find you here, it will cause problems. What sort of problems? Foreign affairs problems. Well, we could do without that. Alright, we'll be on our way. Let's go, Miss Suzato. Of course. Okay. Are you sure we've asked everything? Oh, investigating the scene. Gina. We were actually hoping that we can investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like. Oh, that's alright, isn't it? I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here. Ah, yes, Toby. Apparently, we can't look around on the stage now because the forensic investigation team are at work. Can't, you do anything, Gina, in your capacity as Inspector Lestrade. Look, I'd like to help you out, but I'm just a trainee, ain't I? Ain't nothing I can do. When it suits you, yes. Okay, we can, Oh wait, actually, maybe I can show Gina the picture of Drebber. Maybe she knows him. Let's see. Gina, would you take a look at... Oh, where did it go? Okay. No, it doesn't work. About this, Gina. Yeah, I'm still learning me letters at the moment. I only know A to E, so if it ain't too much bleeding trouble. Actually, Gina, it's the back of the card that's important. Eh? How come? There's just a dirty old smudge in the back, that's all. It turns out that this is a very high-quality French machine oil. It has a very particular scent, apparently. You don't say. Let's have a whiff, then. Alright, so we can give it to her dog. You sure? I don't smell nothing. The dog will. No. We didn't mean that you should smell it. Alright. You mean Toby. His sense of smell is so good he can track people over the oceans, can he? Professor Hairbrayne informs us that this oil is unique to Mr. Drebber's workshop. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Okay, the dog's definitely onto something now. I think he's picked up a scent. So you mean, if he follows the scent of this oil, Toby could lead us to that dodgy cove's workshop. That's right, that's exactly what we're hoping. Alright then, we'll give it a go. I'll just borrow that? What? Wait, when did you... Once a pickpocket. If I can lead everyone to that Drebber's workshop, I'll be the boss's boss before next week. Oh yes, Gina. I'm sure you'll be promoted. Poor Gregson. Right then, Otto. Leave it to me. Sorry. We're gonna get going after that dodgy engineer cove right this minute. Oh, but, hang on. Someone's supposed to be on guard duty here all the time. I'm afraid we can't, help. We need to get on with our investigation as well, Gina. Oh, right. Oh well, never mind. It ain't gonna be me, what gets it in the neck. It'll be the boss. Poor Gregson again. Ready, Toby? Got that oil sent, have ya? Come on then, boy. See you later. So we're not gonna go for her? I do hope the scent of that oil leads them to that swindler's workshop. Yes, I hope so too. Ideally before the dog swims across the channel to France. Okay. Madame Tuspells. Let's go here then. 23rd October. Madame Tuspells. Oh my. No wonder it's called the House of Horrors. I'd like to turn on my heels and go straight home via the confectionery. Being scared makes you crave sweets? I can understand that. I was looking forward to a reunion after 6 months away, but there's no sign of Mr. Sholmes anywhere. That's strange. He should be here investigating the abduction of the waxwork. Oh well, I suppose we'll just have to come back again later. Okay. Let's go to the forensic laboratory. Yeah, this definitely looks like a coroner's building. Forensic laboratory. I believe this is it. Dr. Sif's laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose. And there's plenty to assault the eyes in here, too. It looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think? What a seasoned tourist you've become, Miss Suzato. We could just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. Okay. A table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? It might be best not to ponder it too deeply. Seeing the large tome that's open on the desk does make me wonder, though. How can anybody concentrate on bodywork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air? You'd either have to have a cast iron constitution, or a really terrible sense of smell. Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. I suppose they're fruit liquors or something, or like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home. Ah, Father had jars like that in his laboratory as well. I expect they're human organs in a preserving solution, probably as examples of some rare medical condition. Miss Suzato, there are some things in the world that it's perfectly fine never to know about. Ever. Oh. So as I said, I'm sure they're fruit liquors or umeboshi, aren't they? Of course. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. These ones here are labeled highly toxic. That's worrying, because there are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. I suppose this is Dr. Sif's desk. I would not like to work in a place like this. It's very tidy though, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Imagine how efficiently she must work. The lighting is poor, which is bad for the eyes, and the chemical smell can't be good for you. Not to mention the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves. Well, yes, those are valid concerns, I suppose. I can just about cope a one-eyed Daruma doll watching over me, but that's all. Okay. Well, look at this. What a magnificent display case. The cherry wood has been polished as a high sheen, and the intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they? Do you have nothing to say about the skeleton inside, Mr. Naruhodo? Miss Suzato, can't you tell that I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the terrifying contents of that case? It's how I cope. I'll be sure to remember that from now on. Look, it's an owl. That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself that they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like your Daruma doll on display in the office instead. Okay, so what are we to do here, really? We need to spend some time investigating, but what exactly is there to investigate here? I pretty much have... Oh. Look at this big, thick book here. It appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh. What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... Well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. Scalpels? 500? They really must be working really hard on dissecting corpses. I don't know. Judicial autopsies are only carried out in certain special circumstances. And scalpel blades can be sharpened too. It does seem a bit strange. You're right. My God, I just had a terrible thought about this. The people that are dying, the defendants, the people that keep dying in mysterious circumstances. So whenever Barrick has like a case, and the person is found not guilty, the person is murdered. The person dies in mysterious circumstances. And basically, what happens at that point is the reputation gets spread around that Barrick is the Reaper of the Bailey, and that no one escapes him, and so criminals are scared. And Barrick said while he doesn't do that, he takes that title because it scares criminals. Now, I just had a horrible thought here. What if that the government is somehow involved in those murders? Not Barrick, but like people in the upper parts of the government. What if it's like, what if Lord Strongheart is involved in this? And what if that assistant, Kazuma, is somehow involved in these murders as well? And what if they're killing the people that they know are guilty, and then what they're doing is they're bringing them back here, and they're dissecting their bodies in the name of forensic science? That would explain all the amount of scalpels. You know, I just, I know that sounds like a crazy conspiracy, but, that's just a thought that just came to my mind right there, because I think that it's somebody in the government that is committing these murders. And the reason that Natsume and Gina weren't killed is because it was proven that they were innocent, that they had nothing to do with the crimes. That's probably why they weren't targeted. But that's at least what I think. I guess we'll see, but 500 scalpels a month. What could they possibly be using all them for? What are you doing? Ah. Sorry, we had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so... So you thought you'd snoop around? That's acceptable to you people from the East, is it? Well, what do you want? Lord Strongheart told us, you see, that it was you who examined the victim's body. Mr. Asman's body, I mean. So we came to ask you about your findings, on Lord Strongheart's advice. Very well. If the Lord Chief Justice has given his consent, I'll tell you what our investigation revealed. But when we're done, you must leave immediately. Your findings. So, you want to know what the forensic investigation team determined from its examination of the scene. The victim, Mr. Asman, who disappeared from the experimentation state amid an explosion. And the Mr. Asman who appeared moments later, partway up the crystal tower, were different people. Without question, one and the same person. Oh, that is the team's conclusion. But that can't be right. If it was an elaborate trick, we can only speculate about how it was carried out. Let's see. If two people who look very similar to each other were involved, they could have made it appear as if a single person had switched places, couldn't they? Very true, but sadly in this instance, that was not the case. How do you know? The man who disappeared and the man who subsequently reappeared was the same person. The fingerprints at the scene make that quite evident. Ah, fingerprints. New technology that was being used in this time period. In this time period, they had like an entire book of fingerprints. That's what they would use. They have not yet officially recognized as forensic evidence in the British judicial justice system. But one day, they will be used as an investigative aid, as a matter of course. Oh my, but that would mean that the instantaneous kinesis actually took place. So, where does that leave us? No, the kinesis didn't take place, it was a scam. My team was tasked with investigating, not drawing conclusions. Oh. Instantaneous kinesis is impossible, and yet the body did move from one place to the other. That hatch in the ground, I think is the key. This hasn't cleared anything up at all. It's made the whole thing even more of a mystery. What the hell? Mama, what is this? Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? This is a lawyer, dear. Oh? Hello, to meet you. Pleased to meet you. Yes, I'm a defense lawyer, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mama, why are all the people in the British government just so creepy in this game? It's like, is everyone trying to be a vampire or trying to be some kind of creep or something? It's like, yes. Can I, cut this one up? No. I think that's, and what she's wearing right there, that's a plague doctor's mask. Those were used for hundreds of years. Those are basically masks that doctors would wear. They're kind of scary. They look like a bird, to avoid getting you sick. What? I've never seen inside an Eastern person before. I want to know what it looks like. Okay, I think it's time to get the hell out of here. Of course you can't. It's a live specimen, as you can very well see. Well, you're referring to people as specimens. I think you're messed up, lady. Boring. I think I just had a near-death experience. Oh dear, Mr. Naruhodo, you're as pale as a corpse. Then let's leave before I'm mistaken for one. Well, I think we've done all the investigating we can here for now. If we could just determine the whereabouts of Mr. Drebber, I'm sure Gina and little Toby won't let us down. Now then, do you think we ought to try to speak with Mr. Sholmes at this point? We have things to discuss, and I'm dying to meet him again after all these months. Yes, it's quite possible he might know something useful. You're right. We ought to find him at Madame Tuspel's. He's supposed to be working there as a temporary waxwork exhibit. Okay, we can't talk to her now, so what are you doing at the moment, Doctor? And also, I skipped one of Suzato's lines by accident. I'm sorry about that, guys. Keeping a close eye on things, not so impertinent. Oh, I can probably read it. Yes, Iris told me about his latest unusual venture. Okay, that's what we missed. Keeping a close eye on things, not so impertinent. Easterners think they can look around my office. Are there such impertinent Easterners around? How terrible. Yes, you. She doesn't mince her words, Miss Suzato. I think perhaps it's time we left. Let's see if Mr. Sholmes is here now. 23rd October. Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxworks. Here we are again, at the House of Horrors. I'm afraid I haven't got used to this place yet. I'd still like to turn on my heels and go straight home, via the confectionery, of course. Suzato-san really is afraid of something sweet today, isn't she? Eek! What's the matter? Look, Mr. Naruhodo, look at that waxwork. I'm quite sure it wasn't there before. Oh, it's Mr. Sholmes. It looks exactly like Mr. Sholmes, down to the very last detail. Aha. What is it? Oh, sorry. I think you'll find that's the temporary waxwork himself. Ah, the friend of my dedicated employee. Oh yes, hello again. It's Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I must say, I am quite spellbound by the great detective. He is a marvel. My precious waxwork is already back where it belongs. You don't mean... But yes, the mystery is solved already. Wow, Mr. Sholmes can really engage his brain when he's hungry enough. So as you can see, he has returned to his habitual duties. Yes. His habitual duties? Allers, do not disturb, Poor Susato-san, she looks very perplexed. The figure was found, the wax figure, the heavy curtains in the middle of the House of Horrors. Whatever's on the other side of them, you just know it's going to be terrifying, don't you? The sign says it's the Madame Tuspel special exhibit. It seems you have to pay extra to go inside. I know, can you believe that? Pay more money, as if we hadn't been scared enough already. It's not my doing, Mr. Naruhodo. We really do need to speak with Mr. Sholmes, and I'm longing to say hello again. But where is he? I think you might find that he's quite nearby, actually. Oh, what? What do you... Indeed, my dear fellows, it is I, the world-famous great detective in waxwork, Herlock Sholmes. Suzato-san! Suzato-san! Oh no. She just fainted. My most humble apologies. I thought I died and gone to eternal paradise for a moment via London. My dear madam, allow me to make amends by offering you a tasty free deduction at some point. As long as it's not of questionable street food quality. I don't understand. Why are you working as a waxwork here, Mr. Sholmes? Merely a secret identity, you understand, though the case is largely solved now. Largely solved? We're talking about the waxwork abduction, I presume. Indeed we are, my good fellow, as I predicted. It was as easy as proverbial pie. Though I confess, I'm yet to partake of a pie, proverbial or otherwise, or any food so far today for that matter. That stomach rumble echoed around the whole museum. So how did you manage to solve it so quickly? Ah, well, do remember I said it was largely solved. Anyway, I simply negotiated with the culprit. Are you familiar with the so-called telephone? Oh yes, it's a most modern invention, allowing you to hold a conversation with people far away. In Japan, only the imperial capital and a handful of other cities are connected as yet. Right, so the telephone started becoming big in this time period. This morning, a telephone call was received here from the perpetrator of the abduction. As such, I was able to negotiate terms, and in the end, the waxwork was returned. That's amazing. What terms, though? Just between you and I, it would appear the culprit had always intended to return the stolen waxwork in any event. Oh, but I thought whoever was responsible had demanded a ransom, no? Yes, I think perhaps the ransom demand was necessary to avoid unwanted suspicion regarding the true motive. But does that not mean Your negotiating was entirely unnecessary. Yeah. A fact that I must ask you to keep from Madame Tussbells at all costs. A hungry young Irish awaits my return to Baker Street after all. Poor Irish. Now then, do I sense that you have some business with this great waxwork? Yes. Enoch Drebber. We're in the process of trying to track somebody down. Oh? Yes, a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. He's a swindler who duped Professor Hairbrayne and the engineer who built the Kinesis machine. And now I'm wondering if that was Enoch Drebber who stole the waxwork. That's what I'm curious about. A swindler and an engineer. Quite the modern man. He also seems to be a conjurer of sorts too, with considerable knowledge of stage magic. We really need to locate him before the trial resumes tomorrow morning. We have a few clues to go on, that's the trouble. Do you have any good ideas? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to have good ideas before one has data. If I knew something of the man's appearance at least, I may be in a better position to help. Yes, Drebber's appearance. Fortunately for you, however, presently I have little to occupy myself and little to fill my stomach. As soon as you find any clue, no matter how small, I should gladly give you my thoughts on it. Kazuma's death. I want to hear this now. Mr. Sholmes, did you lie to us? My dear Mr. Naruhodo, stay that piercing stare. What is this about? Last winter, when we were first on our way to Britain, aboard the steamship. Your words were very clear. So then, let us unravel this mystery, and discover what events led to this curious murder. You told us that it was murder, and you examined Kazuma-sama's body. Indeed, and wherein lies the problem? We met him earlier today, the victim, Kazuma Asoji. You're quite sure? He was wearing some sort of mask, and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure. It was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at that time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead. Well, I can only assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere of the moment. But the fellow wasn't dead at all? Priceless. I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, would it, Mr. Naruhodo? I could believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake. But not you, Mr. Sholmes. I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Tomorrow in court, you will find yourself on the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. Yeah, so he's definitely lying. He knows about it. Let's show him the picture. Maybe he knows this guy. Mr. Sholmes, would you cast your eyes over this photographic print? It's of Mr. Enoch Drebber, the face of the engineer we seek. Well, all English men look broadly the same, of course, so looking at the photograph won't be particularly instructive. Are you all right, Mr. Sholmes? He knows him. Ah, yes, forgive me. Very interesting this. Very interesting indeed. What's wrong, Mr. Sholmes? You turned quite pale all of a sudden. I have a suggestion, Mr. Naruhodo. Will you indulge me? Oh, well, what is it? As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned, and I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit form which it was taken behind those thick curtains. So that's it. It's Enoch Drebber is the one that stole the waxwork. That's how Mr. Sholmes knows him. He met him, and he gave him back the waxwork. The waxwork had something to do with the murder. Oh yes, the professor exhibit, isn't it? Would you like to see it for a mere 5 shillings? That's a special, one-time and only price, you understand? What? The opportunity won't come again, I might add. Wouldn't you like to see the fruits of my labor? Oh, well, we do have a rather pressing investigation to carry out. Perhaps we could postpone. The price is a very reasonable 5 shillings. I think you'll find it's well worth it. Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes? Surely you need only look at my expression to ascertain if this is seriousness or silliness. I can never tell with you. That's the point. Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings. Gratefully received. So, the special exhibit awaits behind the curtain. I invite you to use it at your leisure. Okay, so now we get to see the professor. Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit. Through those heavy curtains at last. $5 shillings we've had to pay. It doesn't seem right somehow that Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it? No. We could ask Gina to retrieve it for us using her special skills. Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. Is that what makes Britain great? Not to mention demigod prosecutors taking the law into their own hands, or chip-loving inspectors. Inspector Gregson comes off rather well in that list, I think. October 23rd. Madame Tuspel's special exhibit. Whoa! There's no head? Oh dear, I felt a shiver run down my spine as soon as we walked in here. Miss Suzato, I say we turn on our heels and go straight home. Via a really big confectionery. We certainly can't do that. We've paid 5 shillings already. True. Actually, now I'm looking at it a little more closely. We've paid good money to see an exhibit that's clearly incomplete. The nerve of the great diddling detective is far more terrifying than anything else in this place. Where's the head? This must be what Mr. Sholmes meant when he said the case was largely solved. The head's gone. Be that as it may, Mr. Sholmes heavily implied that there'd be a clue about the engineer in here, didn't he? But where? Since we paid 5 shillings, let's do 5 shillings worth of investigation, shall we? Yes, we will get what we paid for. Is that fear of frustration that making Suzato-san's voice tremble? This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. It looks so real. It seems to be a young man in a white overcoat. That's the professor. And he has a large shovel in his hand, too. Look. Perhaps we should investigate in a little more detail. This is the serial killer? He has a monocle of an eye, too. Is that a camera? What's this here? Well, this would appear to be a lens in the middle, so I believe it's probably a camera. A camera? But it's so small. British technology is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what about Mr. Sholmes' skin prints? I think perhaps you should treat Mr. Sholmes' inventions as exceptions to the rule. But anyway, why would the man be in a graveyard at night with a camera? I wonder. Perhaps he was trying to capture the moment a dead body came back as a ghost. We'll just borrow this for a little while, I think. The camera from around the neck of a waxwork in Madame Tuspel's special exhibit. By looking at the photographic plate inside the camera, we can see what picture was taken. What's a photographic plate? It's a piece of glass coated in a special emulsion that reacts to the light coming in through the lens. If we open the cover of the back of the camera, we should find it. Let's have a look. You should see yourself, Suzato-san. Your eyes are shining. You really do like machinery, don't you? What a large shovel. He's holding it rather ominously, isn't he? What on earth was the man doing with a shovel in a graveyard in the middle of the night? Miss Suzato, yes. That's a spade, isn't it? No, it's a shovel. No. Shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. We've been through this, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a shovel. No. Although, we haven't considered trowels. We've allowed ourselves to be distracted, I feel. Perhaps we should concentrate on what the man was doing with the implement. So we're going to bury the hatchet. You're right, though. What was the man doing in the graveyard in the first place? That's the real question. That's quite a large lamp the man's carrying. Or is it a lantern? It's not unlike a Japanese Chochin paper lantern, is it? Lamp, lantern, Chochin. The point is, it casts a very little light. To be walking alone in graveyard at night with only this. Well, I certainly couldn't do it. Why does he have a camera at night, too? I'm not sure I could visit the graveyard at all, even in broad daylight, to be honest. I can't see his face very well, can you? Perhaps if I just... Oh. Do you think you should be manhandling the exhibits, Mr. Naruhodo? I'll put it back exactly as it was, don't worry. Ah. What on earth? How can... Wait. It does look similar to him, but not completely. Let's see what this last picture was here, too. Oh, look. The cover came open. Yes, now, there should be a glass plate inside. You have to change the plate with each new photograph you want to take, you see. Is something wrong? There is no plate. It's been removed. Ah, what a pity. But I suppose if you think about it, this wouldn't be the actual camera that was used at the time, just like the waxwork isn't the actual person. So we never have found a photographic print of the executed convict coming back to life anyway. Oh, yes. You're quite right, of course. Poor Suzato-san, she looks devastated. What a wonderful machine. You really love contraptions like this, don't you? This is the cameras that they had back then. Oh yes, anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible. Almost irresistible, surely. Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart. That's worrying. Yes, Father tells the time by the rumblings of his stomach now. He's giving up having a watch. Poor Professor Mikotoba. Wait, is this blood? What the? Look, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it? On the bellows, just here, there seems to be some very dark red stains. Yes, you're right. It looks like blood, actually. Why would is this real blood in the exhibit? Oh my. I'm sure it's not what you're thinking. Ha ha ha. We found a lot of information with this camera, but how is this camera relevant to the case? I don't believe it. A black monocle. Mr. Naruhodo, is it possible that this man is... Yes. It's Enoch Drebber. I mean, it looks like he could have dyed his hair. It is possible. I mean, it is now, but the picture looks very different, though. Yeah, the picture does look a little different. The color of his hair is different, but it's unmistakably him. Indeed it is. Mr. Sholmes. This man is the subject of your present hunt, I believe. Yes, that's right. Just who is this man? Why is he here in this exhibit? And why does the convict behind him have no head? The head was missing when the model was returned by the thief who stole it. What a surprise. So then the case isn't yet solved, is it? Did I say so myself? Largely solved, were my words, I believe. But I must locate the missing head, tout de suite, as Madame would say, or I'll be in grave trouble. A very hungry Iris waits my return to Baker Street, preferably with rations. Ah. Do you know, though, something about this room is strange. Strange. What do you mean? Well, the displays in the House of Horrors are supposed to depict real events, are they not? Indeed they are, Miss Suzato. Do go on. And, as terrifying as they are, the scenes in the other exhibits are believable. But this one... Yeah, this surely couldn't ever really have happened, could it? Yeah, a guy coming out of the grave. I think it's time I educated you a little about the nature of the incidents involving the professor 10 years ago. That's a serial killer. The resurrecting convict. I believe I told you a little about the professor yesterday. Did I not? He took the lives of 5 victims, every one being either a member of the aristocracy or royalty. All were attacked by an enormous hunting hound and had their throats ripped from their bodies. Hunting hound. So that's why it's called the Hound of the Baskervilles. That's that case. Oh gosh, an enormous hound. How awful. After taking the life of his 5th victim, the killer was apprehended. It was a case of unprecedented magnitude in Britain, you understand. Accordingly, the professor was tried in a closed court. No members of the public were permitted. A closed court. So you mean that the professor's identity, as you've surmised, my dear fellow, his identity was never made public. Naturally, he was found guilty, and was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. So, they never found out who the serial killer was. There's a reason his identity was never revealed. Because he was someone important. If the serial killer was somebody important, the government would cover that up to hide that. He was buried in a grave of Lowgate Cemetery, which adjoins the rear of the prison where he had been held. Why did he kill aristocrats and nobles and royalty? He killed the elites of society. He was probably an elite himself or was involved with them somehow. However, that was not the end of the affair. Oh? The very night that he was buried, the convicted man came back to life. What? Came back to life? That's not possible when you get hanged. He clawed his way out of the ground and emerged into the moonlight graveyard. The exhibit here depicts that very scene as described by the sole witness to those chilling events. There was a witness. But of course, my dear fellow, it was none other than the young man in the white overcoat, Enoch Drebber. But why was he there at the cemetery? Why was he there with a lantern at night? Why did he have a camera? You know, this Enoch Drebber. He saw it happen. The young witness. So this is a waxwork model of Enoch Drebber 10 years ago. The convicted professor, having been bedded and buried, emerged from his grave in the dead of night. The sole witness to that unimaginable scene was this young man. And that's why the professor's head is missing, because they don't want you to know what he looked like, the serial killer. From appearances, I would say he was about 20 years old. It's so horrifying. Scared out of his wits, the young Drebber ran into a nearby police station to report the incident. And the sheer terror of what he'd seen is said to have turned his hair white overnight. But why does he have a spade in his hands? Why is he there at the graveyard with a spade? Why does he have a camera? Something's not right here. Yes, as shown in the photograph we have of him, his hair is completely white. For the following few days, the story of what he'd seen was on every front page in the capital. The public was frantic for every last detail about the killer who'd come back to life. Now I'm starting not to believe this story. Enoch Drebber is the one who told this story to the police. And the killer apparently escaped. He had a spade in his hands at the time. I highly doubt that the serial killer, the professor, survived the hanging. As you've seen, an exhibit was even created here at Madame Tuspel's. I can quite understand why the man's hair turned white, certainly. But what I don't understand is what Mr. Drebber was doing in the first place. Exactly. In a lonely graveyard in the middle of the night. Exactly, Suzato, good point. Yes. What was he up to? The professor's acts of terror threw London's upper classes into complete panic 10 years ago. It was a great scandal, one might say, at the very highest level of society. And since the killer's identity was never made public, rumors abounded. After all, no killer had ever before systematically employed a dog as a weapon of murder. Yes, I can imagine the impact of the case must have had. But in time, of course, the rumors abated. So too did talk of the shocking witness account of the convict who came back to life. It was forgotten, dismissed as a dubious ghost story, as a preposterous parlor tale. But where's the body? Was the body there? But why did people stop believing it? Why? Simply because there was no resurrection to speak of, as we established in fact. What do you mean by no resurrection? There was no more murders, he means. The police investigated the grave in Lowgate Cemetery and published their findings. The convict's body was found to be buried exactly where it had been following the execution. Something's not right here, though. Something's not right. No. But that would mean Mr. Drebber must have lied to the police and the newspapers. That would appear to be the only logical explanation. Yes. The young man subsequently vanished from society, and nothing had been heard of him since. Why would he lie to police about that? It's rather striking, then, that he should resurface now, don't you think? Of course, the convicted murderer couldn't really have come back to life. That's not possible. But Drebber's hair is unusually white, and that really did happen overnight as a result of shock. It's hard to believe the incident was an out-of-date lie. Okay, so what am I supposed to be doing here? I feel like we need to spend a little bit more time investigating here. This must be the killer, the fiend known as the Professor. Yes, I think so, according to what Madame Tuspel's said. He killed 5 victims, all of noble or royal blood. The waxwork is so lifelike, isn't it? Like all the models in this place. I know, it looks like it could start moving at any moment, doesn't it? If only it had a head, that is. Perhaps we should examine it in a little more detail. Yeah, we should. Is there something that we can tell about the body? So this is the condemned man. Yes, the so-called professor. Then perhaps his head was chopped off by a guillotine? No. But unable to find peace, he emerged from his grave as a headless ghost. Do we have to entertain such terrifying ideas, Miss Suzato? Anyway, I'm sure that the model had a head once. There's a metal filling for it, see? Then perhaps Mr. Sholmes absent-mindedly forgot to reattach it. That's an extremely absent-minded detective you're describing, isn't it? Or perhaps the thief absent-mindedly forgot to include the head when he or she returned it to the museum. And that would be an extremely absent-minded thief. Could there have been some reason why only the head wasn't returned? Well, whatever the reason, it means we don't know what the face of the infamous professor looked like, do we? I'm starting to get really freaked out by that, about what his face looks like. Because I feel like we've seen his face somewhere, if that's his face. If his face isn't there. There's something that there's something caught just inside the convict's jacket here. It looks like a piece of broken glass. Wait! And quite a big piece, too. That's from the exhibit. Wait, look. Yeah, look. I knew it right there. It's very thick, isn't it? About 5 times thicker than normal window glazing, I'd say. That's from the glass tower. Where could such a thick piece of glass have come from, I wonder? I suppose it must have been made thick to increase its strength. So, like I said at the beginning of this case, like, when the wax figures disappeared, the wax figure had something to do with the murder. It did. The wax figure was there at the scene. That's why there's broken glass. The wax figure was in place. The only question is, which place was it in? Because that's how the bodies got switched out. But why? Well, perhaps because the glass had to span a particularly wide area, such as in a big building, for example. Ah, well, we've seen a large glass building recently, haven't we? And some of the glass was broken too. You don't mean... Exactly, the Crystal Tower at the Great Exhibition. Crystal Tower, not Glass Tower. Why would glass from the Crystal Tower be lodged inside the Waxworks jacket? It makes you think, doesn't it? A small fragment of very unusual and thick glass was found in the folds of the clothing of the Professor Waxwork. It would appear to be from the Crystal Tower. Earlier in court, we established that the kinesis experiment was a trick. And now we discovered this fragment of glass here in this waxwork. Is it just a coincidence? No, it's not. There's really no such thing as coincidence in investigation. Number 139. There's not even a name for him, just referred to as the Professor. What the bleeding Nora Otto? What have you gone and done? Gina, what are you doing here? The smell led her back here. I asked Iris and she said this is where you'd be, so, Gina, not so loud in the museum. Madame Tuspels will have you take a position as a waxwork if you're not careful. I think there might be a more pressing concern. I still had some flash powder left from 6 months ago. So, alright Gina, we understand. But please, put down the gun. Sorry, I got scared. You should try being the one on the other end of the barrel. So, what brings you here, Gina? What brings me here? What do you think? We found it. We found that Dodgy Cove's workshop. What? You found Drebber's workshop. Yup. Toby's nose took me straight there. The boss and the others are heading over there now in a drag, so come on. Here's the address. I got the boss to write it out. Oh, thank you, Gina. We'll make our way there at once. Okay, so now we're finally getting somewhere. Alright then, see you there. You go. Don't, mind me. I'll just stay here, being still. What? You think he'd be interested? I know my place in the exhibit over there. Oh dear, someone is feeling sorry for himself. I'm scared to know what the professor's face looks like. Let's go, Mr. Sholmes. You're coming. Your words hearten me, I must say. But if I were to shirk my duties here, Madam would have me pay monetary recompense and Iris's dinner plate. Forget that, I'll pay for everything. Wonder if that was just a way for him to say that he'll pay for it. Then there's not a moment to lose, my dear fellow. I shall hail a carriage at once. No offer to share the cost for Mr. Sholmes, then. I shall gladly pay half, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Miss Suzato. Right, let's go. (23rd October). Enoch Drebber's workshop. This is the place. Looks like there's another machine like that. That looks like... Oh, it's another super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. Indeed, it would appear so, though only a prototype, naturally. Ah, so you got here then. Gina, well done for finding this place. And in such little time. You really worked miracles. It's Toby's ear who's the miracle worker. Ah, I thought you lot would show up long before. What's wrong with Gregson? Hello, Inspector. That's one knitted brow. He looks like he's eating a lemon. Not a bag of fish and chips. So, Inspector, is there any sign of the engineer? Sadly not. We didn't find a soul in here. Oh, what a shame. Well, thank you for letting us know about this place, and giving us the chance to investigate. According to what Gina tells me, we only found it thanks to a clue that you lot turned up. I wouldn't want to say, go to Paris with a debt of gratitude unpaid now, would I? Thank you. Anyway, if you're hoping to snoop around in here, I'd get cracking. Lord Van Zieks and the forensic investigation team are on their way here as we speak. Them again. I imagine you've got the picture by now. They don't take too kindly to lawyer types. Right. So then, my dear fellow, let's turn this place upside down whilst we have the chance. And you, Sholmes. Pardon? They take even less kindly to great detectives than they do to lawyers. Very droll, Gregson, very droll. But you may consider me nothing more than an inconspicuous waxwork model. Right then. Let's see what we can find in here. Some trophy here. Ah, this appears to be the most interesting. Yes, most interesting indeed, wouldn't you say? It's an impressive looking back massager, that's for sure. No, it's a trophy. I've no doubt that if you hit your shoulders a few times with that, your aches and pains would soon go away. It's a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science. A young scientist could wish for no higher honor. Ah. Would you like a massage? No, I'm fine, thank you. I had no idea that it was such a grand thing. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there's much more to this Mr. Enoch Drebber than conjuring tricks. I couldn't agree more, my dear madam. And how about you, Mr. Naruhodo? Wouldn't you like to take it with you? For your tired shoulders, of course. He's not going to let that go, is he? It's curious, though, isn't it? You would expect such an important trophy to be proudly on display somewhere, not haphazardly cast aside. English gentlemen can be quite a mystery at times. A Royal Society trophy for excellence in science that was found in Mr. Drebber's workshop. It's a very prestigious award for a young scientist. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the glass, too. This piece of glass is almost as thick as is wide. Yes, I've never seen anything like it. If you were to compare it to a human, only Mr. Sholmes has such thick skin. There's really no need for such a comparison, Mr. Naruhodo, as you well know. Anyway, it can only be from the Crystal Tower, surely. Yes, I think so too. It was probably made especially to meet the demands of that great structure. There's a little metal plaque here, look. Fostering burgeoning talent for the future of scientific discovery. It seems rather ironic, doesn't it? But clearly Mr. Drebber really was a very talented scientist. Arrows. This is... It's a European-style quiver of arrows with steel bolts inside. Oh, do you suppose... Crossbow bolts, these. And just the right size the bow you lot turned up at the exhibition grounds. In other words... Yep, that's more evidence to support your theory. It all goes to show that Drebber was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes of the whole scam. A crossbow found hidden inside, behind a tree under the experimentation state at the exhibition grounds. It belongs to Mr. Enoch Drebber. I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. That machine is covered by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. There would be serious consequences if you were to examine it from the Crown and the government. What are they doing? Well, those two don't seem to be holding back. It's quite hollow inside. No working parts or devices of deception to be seen, my dear fellow. No loose chains dropped on the floor or nothing. Not even a bone for Toby ear, my dear fellow. British people are very much ruled by their own ideals, aren't they? I think that just these two, Miss Suzato. Let's look up. What on earth is this? An aeroplane, Mr. Naruhodo. One day scientists believe it will allow humans to fly freely in the skies. Is that how the trick will be described, is it? Sorry? Well, it's actually suspended by a thin but very strong cable, isn't it? Oh, well, this model is yes, but a real aeroplane would actually fly high in the sky. While suspended from somewhere even higher in the sky, of course. Because large metal objects obviously can't really stay in mid-air unsupported. So to you, the solution is ever taller towers. This door doesn't want to open. Yeah, looks like it's got a pretty hefty lock on it. Well, Gina can probably pick it. There's a specialist locksmith on his way over from the yard, so hands off till he gets here. With permission, Inspector. I could have that lock open in less than a minute. Well, you don't have permission. And no one's given it to you. Gregson looked as though he really enjoyed that. Well, there's no sound of anybody on the other side. No, Drebber must have fled at the first sign of danger. What was that? Okay, now I think it's important that we break open that door right now. Is something wrong, Miss Suzato? Well, I thought I heard a noise from the far side of that door. Well, Gina, do you hear it too? Yep, I heard it all right and all. What do you reckon, Toby? Right, mind the grease. Someone's in there. Whoever's in there, open up. This is Scotland Yard. What on earth is going on? Oh my, someone is in there. Ah, this rotten, bleeding lock. My dear Gregson, I said only minutes ago. If only it were counter-ansed, I could unlock the door in less than a minute. Fine, I'll take the rap for it. Just get us through that blasted door. There, you may enter at will. You've confused minutes with seconds, I think. Time is of the essence, I feel. What are we waiting for? Yeah, let's get in there. Nothing for it, I suppose. This is an emergency. There's a strong possibility that beyond that door is the engineer you all seek. Be prepared for action, my dear fellow. Yes. I think the inspector should probably have his gun drawn. What the... What's happening here? Is that a bomb? Look in the middle of the room. Why is everything upside down? How did they not notice the bomb in the middle of the room? Rats, there ain't no one else in here, but there must be. It was only moments ago that we heard those noises. Maybe that was the sound of Drebber running away. He climbed up through the roof. But there's only one door into this room. Look at the footprints on the ceiling. He climbed in through the roof. What's that up there? Are they footprints? on the ceiling. Below me. What have we there? Here, then. How are you guys not noticing the bomb in the middle of the room? Looks like someone was trying to burn something in a hurry. Oh, that looks like a set of blueprints. To what? To the Professor Hairbrayne's barmy machine, is it? Blimey, if we had these, there'd have been no need to muck about trying to investigate all that scrap metal. There's something of great interest here, too. How are you guys not seeing the bomb in the middle of the room? This rope was lying on the floor at the foot of that pillar. Is this like a joke right now? Does like nobody see the dynamite? A rope. What's significant about that? Never mind. You see, but you do not observe, Mr. Naruhodo. We must investigate the entire room thoroughly, and before the forensic team arrive too. This has me concerned right now, this. Mr. Sholmes, have you found something? Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, in point of fact, something rather fascinating. I don't think that's fascinating right now. What do you make of this? Let's see. I've never seen anything like it before. It looks like a... Let me move my camera. Miss Suzato, what's the matter? That's a... Surely that's a time bomb, isn't it? What? Did you say... Yeah, how did nobody see this except me? Like, the second I was right in the room, I saw that immediately in the middle of the room. Like, how did everyone just pass this as a bomb literally right in the middle of the room, and everyone just, like, walks past this like it's nothing? A time bomb. Get it out of here. I'm sorry, but... What is a time bomb, exactly? Eh? Oh, and he's laughing about it. You truly are one of a kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I won't take that as a compliment. Huh. You don't know nothing, do you, Otto? You haven't got a clue what it is either, have you, Gina? I invite you to consult a dictionary later, Mr. Naruhodo. But this particular specimen is no time bomb, though I confess it has a very similar appearance. Oh, well, thank goodness. But then, what is it? I see. So that's it. Goodness. Mr. Sholmes, have you seen to the heart of the matter? There are times when I consider my lot most unfair. For I'm fated never to know how it feels to flounder as you do when a puzzle presents itself. But I have learned to accept the hardships that come with being a great detective, Miss Suzato. Here we go. I feel a great deduction coming. Once again, I can draw two conclusions from the scene that we see before us. The first is that the inverted nature of the furniture in this room is the work of Drebber himself. Okay, I think that's obvious. Oh, but how could you... And the second conclusion is that the small device on the floor there is without question completely genuine. Please, Mr. Sholmes, you must explain everything. Well, if it's... I really hope he doesn't waste time on a deduction if that's a real bomb, because I think it's time to get it the hell out of here. After all, it is a great detective's civic duty to teach Scotland Yard the finer points of the trade. Well, Inspector Gregson seems delighted with the idea anyway. Oh, you deflected the inspector's glare with such fortitude there, Mr. Sholmes. Well done. You're too kind. My dear madam, I hereby dedicate this great deduction to you. Kindly stand just there, Miss Suzato. Oh, yes. I'd be delighted. So, shall we begin? Once again, Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. The game is afoot. Flipped furniture. It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table, and the chairs, the lamp. Everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in this room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down onto the floor. No. Every item in this room was on the ceiling. Are you suggesting that... Indeed, the key here... No. I already see why everything's flipped. Look right here. Look on the left side. Look. Look, do you see that chair right there that's flipped? Safe. And there's a combination. He was flipping the furniture over because he wanted to find a piece of furniture that had the safe combination. That's why everything's flipped. He was trying to get into the safe before the police arrived. I already see it. Is gravity. It would appear the technology has at last succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. For the gravity in this room was reversed and then suddenly restored to normality. Goodness. The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. I quite understand your skepticism, Miss Suzato. I too was incredulous at first. However, my conviction is my analysis was cemented when I observed this. An anti-gravity device, almost identical to the one that featured in a dream of mine, only the other day in fact. It's not an anti-gravity device. But then why does it have a clock on it? A most relevant question indeed. That is the timing device that controls when the gravity direction will switch. There was clearly a requirement for the engineer to be able to restore normal gravity automatically. And the commotion was heard earlier from the other side of the door was the moment that restoration occurred. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. No. So you see, we need look no further to explain the state in which we find this room. The direction in which gravity acts in here was reversed by Mr. Drebber, before being restored to normality in automatic fashion sometime later by the timer device. I have witnessed precisely this scene in a dream I once had when I fell out of bed. No. Because gravity was reversed. No. Missing engineer. Now let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there in the ceiling? A question whose answer will lead us nearly to the truth, my dear madam. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Okay, he might be onto something here. Of course, Drebber was singular to escape. I notice how there's some paintings are missing on the wall. Except, however, there is but one way into this room, excepting the skylight, that is. Ah. By inverting the gravity here, Drebber was able to fall conveniently to the ceiling and make his escape via the otherwise inaccessible skylight, leaving those footprints behind on the way. No. But the ceiling in here is very high, Mr. Sholmes. If the gravity reversal was sudden, wouldn't Mr. Drebber have fallen up to the ceiling rather violently? Falling up is both scientifically and philosophically a rather interesting concept, I feel. But the man was cornered with nowhere to run, so escape through the skylight was his only option. You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? By anchoring one end of to the wall, the man was able to lower himself safely to the ceiling. Which explains how Drebber was able to escape this room before our arrival. He reversed the pull of gravity and fled via the skylight. No. And personally, I should very much like to reverse the pull of gravity again now, just for fun. No. Okay, we're gonna examine this right now. Escape via the skylight. There might be a secret passage out of this room. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. Look at Gregson. She's completely spellbound. Mr. Sholmes, there's just one thing that troubles me. I would expect nothing less. You're destined to be troubled by just one thing for the rest of your life. The thing is such a thing actually possible? An anti-gravity device, I mean? I would say that with the man's current scientific knowledge at the turn of the 20th century, it's no more possible than instantaneous kinesis. Well, you know that was a scam and it was a fraud. But your whole deduction hinges on it. Ah, but my dear fellow, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. However improbable it may seem. Huh. It's a marvelous line, wouldn't you agree? One of my more enduring pearls of wisdom. I had Iris come up with that exact phrasing. My original was clumsy. Yes, I have a feeling I've read it in something that Miss Suzato lent me once.
Objection!
Actually, there is one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the spell's broken at last. The rope you found was on the floor, wasn't it? Indeed it was, in lonely coils near the wall. But if Mr. Drebber had used it to escape in the way you described, wouldn't it still be tied to the wall? Oh, and look, I just noticed there's like a green balloon hovering there, similar to the one that blew up. Mysterious inevitably unravel in the end, as I think you'll find due ropes. And as evidence of such, you need only look at the mystery we faced in this room, now skillfully unraveled. That argument is as circular as the coils of rope. I think perhaps we might need to give Mr. Sholmes the usual little helping hand. I'm sure with some minor corrections, the great detective's great deduction will lead us to the truth. Yes, you're right. And we must do it quickly, before Enoch Drebber gets too far away. If you're ready, then let us resume. Herlock Sholmes' logic and reasoning spectacular. Okay, I'm really curious to find the real answer here. I think he was flipping over the furniture to find the safe combination, but why would he be flipping over furniture like that? Because you'd think that they would remember exactly which piece of furniture had the safe combination. It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. Okay, let's skip this. We already know this. Look at that, I already see the safe combination there. No. To think gravity could have been reversed in this very room. I find the whole idea utterly enthralling. Only Mr. Sholmes could conceive of such an explanation. But the man himself admitted it was scientific impossibility, so... Yes, you're quite right. We must completely discount the idea at once. Oh, that's unusually merciless of you, Miss Suzato. When you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The great detective himself said so, didn't he? While refusing to part with his dreams of anti-gravity devices. Yes, I suppose so. Well, let's see if examining this topsy-turvy scene a little more closely reveals some proof that shows exactly what the gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. What here breaks the, hang on. What here breaks the laws of Sholmes? Oh yeah, the safe. The safe wasn't flipped. Oh, look, Miss Suzato. When everything seems to be upside down in here, this safe is conspicuously the right way up. Yes, that's true. But look more closely at the safe's feet. Ah, that's a lot of very large bolts fixing it to the floor. Think before you speak. That's what you wanted to say, isn't it? I really put my foot in the mouth there. I certainly didn't say that. Oh, upright vase.
Take that!
The upright vase clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, you've surpassed yourself by completely turning my argument on its head. Trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps? No one is trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes, trust me. As you rightly say, though, it appears at first glance that all the furniture in this room is upside down. This unassuming, slender vase is standing keenly to attention. And unlike the large safe, there is nothing affixing it to the floor. And it's the exception that breaks the rule. In short, as much as it pains me, the gravity in this room was never inverted at all. Yeah, I think we all knew that. My deepest sympathies for your loss. Oh, poor Mr. Sholmes. But the show must go on, so let's continue with our deductions. Now that we know this contrivance is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility. You don't say. Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture in here. Which might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery, very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that? Quite, and naturally, there is an explanation. They wanted to get the plans for the machine. Yes, the reason why everything in here is that he's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with it, isn't he? The reason that those burnt papers were probably in the safe. Drebber probably got that out of the safe and tried to burn it. I'm afraid the lure of an exciting scientific explanation is too strong. Well, there's no doubt that somebody did this. Somebody turned all this furniture over. So whoever it was must have had a reason. I'm afraid nothing comes to mind at all, though. Well, let's look around and see if the answer presents itself. This.
Take that!
I saw it right away. We got it. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the safe combination. Precisely. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that you had a very similar experience once, did you not? Yes, last year, when I bought a lottery ticket and noted that the ticket number down on the inside cover of a book just in case. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always make a written note of important information. Just keeping the ticket itself safe would be more sensible, I think. And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruhodo? When the day of the draw came around, I'd forgotten which book I'd written a number in, and had to turn my room upside down to find it. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always forget where they noted things down. Well, somebody like Drebber wouldn't forget, like, you know, the which piece of furniture the safe code was on, but, you know, this is just for game logic, I guess. Not if you always note things in the same place. I actually won the second prize, you know. But I couldn't remember which magazine I slipped the ticket into, so I had to turn my room upside down. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo, but I believe I proved my point now. Which is that a very similar scenario has clearly unfolded in this room. Finding himself requiring access to the safe, the occupant of this room needed the combination code. He remembered that he'd written it on the underside of a piece of furniture, but forgot which one. Leading to the state in which we now find the room. Yes, Mr. Drebber overturned all the furniture in here, in a desperate hurry to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe. To find the safe combination. Escape via the skylight, nah. I mean, I did think that at first, but there's something else. What was our engineer's friend aim? I did read one of the quotes there, I'm sorry. We can always go back to history here and read them. A question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madam. Well, if a change in direction of gravity can explain it, then how did those footprints get there? It's a really good point. But there has to be an explanation. Yes, I feel as though that particular mystery has just become even harder to solve. I can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Oh, life was so much simpler in those halcyon days when gravity could be reversed. It was minutes ago, and those halcyon days never existed in the first place. Well, I suppose we must simply put our faith in Mr. Sholmes and observe the area in more detail. Putting our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us into these situations in the first place. Why are there footprints? Oh, the balloon.
Take that!
Okay, now we messed up on this. We didn't get it right. I have to examine it more closely then. I saw that right away. Okay, let's examine this one more time then. This is a gas balloon, isn't it? It's tiny, but it does seem to be a real balloon. Yes, I think you're right. I think it's helium that's keeping it up. A green gas balloon. Why does that seem to ring a bell with me? Yup, like in the situation that we had where a balloon exploded. If you can see, there are footprints on this balloon too. That's a shoe up there too. Oh yes, surely that's a clue, isn't it? Though what it tells us, I'm not sure. Shoe. It's hard to believe, but there's a shoe up there, look. Oh yes, and there are more footprints on this little balloon too. Perhaps the shoe was thrown up there and became lodged, do you think? If so, then judging from the number of footprints, it must have been thrown up several times. Why would anyone be throwing shoes up at the ceiling, though? That is a good question. Oh dear. That's beyond me, I'm afraid.
Take that!
The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby shoe. And on closer inspection, there are clearly footprints all over the balloon as well. In other words, the aim was never the skylight at all, but the balloon. But for what purpose? A green balloon. That seems somewhat familiar data. It was a piece of green balloon's envelope that Mr. Naruhodo and Iris found at the scene. And inside the green balloon, that Master Gotts claims he saw above the stage when the incident occurred was a second birdcage, the crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception. Right, that's when the balloon blew up and he fell with the cage. You mean to say, if we assume the balloon in here is a model of the one used in the day, there is a strong possibility something may be concealed inside it. Something our absonder was desperate to retrieve before making a hasty getaway. But the balloon's out of reach. Hence why he resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. Ah. Most probably, Drebber intended to tear a hole in the balloon by assailing it with the shoe. However, his efforts were unthwarted when the shoe itself became a prisoner of these lofty heights. Oh dear, we desperately need to examine that balloon. If only there was some way that we could see inside. You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution, the rope. Oh, the rope. Oh, she just said it too. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? Mr. Sholmes managed to bring a deduction back to the rope. Alright, I have to admit, that was clever. So we just throw the rope up to the balloon, and then... Man, my camera's bringing this down a little bit here, and then pull it down to us on the ground. Which is much easier said than done, I feel. And could take us a very long time as well. True, perhaps we need a more surefire method. In fact, we already have one, of course, don't we? What piece of evidence would you use to reach the intended destination? What better tool than this rope? I mean, we could use the crossbow, but that would blow up the balloon. Yeah, I think it would be the crossbow. Let's see.
Take that!
Yep, it is. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this crossbow? That was found at the scene, in fact. And in all likelihood belongs to Mr. Drebber. If the man had only brought it away with him that day, he could have avoided losing a shoe at such a critical time as this. So, shall we? Your curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Enoch Drebber has hidden inside that balloon? Wonder what's in there. What the? Ah, what? That is the professor's head? Is that the professor's head? The wax figure, a waxwork. That's the serial killer's face? Indeed it is, a waxwork head inside a metal mask. A mask that is shut tight and fastened with a strong and quite impenetrable lock. So he can't see the face inside, that means. Just a moment, this is the head of a waxwork model. Does that mean, oh goodness. I see you've joined the dots, Miss Suzato, excellent. Ah, of course, a headless waxwork model. The case of the abducted Madame Tuspel's model that you'd largely solved. It was only the head of the killer that was still missing. Indeed it was. But I believe Madame Tuspel's will now have to settle her sizable account with me. This, as you have now surmised, is the head of the infamous professor. Yes, but why is it here? This conclusively confirms my suspicions. The man responsible for stealing the professor from Madame Tuspel's and returning it, a sans tete earlier today, was none other than Enoch Drebber. This is incredible. Professor Hairbrayne's case and the waxwork abduction they're inextricably linked by Enoch Drebber's workshop. I knew that waxwork had something to do with it. The head of the professor waxwork that was stolen from Madame Tuspel's special exhibit. Well, it appears our logical pleasure cruise has come to an end, my dear fellows. No, it hasn't. We haven't identified how he left the room yet. All that remains is, yes, to speak with the architect of this adventure. The architect? You mean Mr. Drebber. As it seems quite impossible to yet escape via one of the skylights, obviously, the man must still be here in this room. What? And his location should be abundantly clear. If you simply reflect on the journey we've made together during this deduction. Enoch Drebber is right here somewhere in this room. So, Mr. Naruhodo, will you do the honors? Yes, of course. Where is he hiding? I'm thinking the wardrobe. If you need to hide, there's no better place than a wardrobe. I stand firmly by that. Ah yes, you had some experience of that yourself a year ago, didn't you? We'll find him in there, mark my words. He'll be curled up in a ball, trembling and hungry. In fact, my own hand is trembling just thinking about making the discovery. Never mind, Mr. Naruhodo. He could be hiding somewhere else, you know. Let's just make sure. Cupboard? No, it's too small. This looks to be a cupboard for cups and saucers and like. Ah, an ingenious hiding place. No, is it? Well, when you say cupboard, you automatically think of cups and saucers, don't you? And the clever engineer knows that, so he knows you never look for him in there because he's not crockery. Though sadly, it does seem to be full of only crockery. Yeah. Can somebody actually hide in there? Look at all that mess in front of the safe. Yes, plans and accounting ledgers. Almost as if somebody was in a hurry to empty the contents of the safe, in fact. I'm gonna say the wardrobe. I think the safe is too small for somebody to hide inside. Let's see.
Take that!
Alright, Mr. Drebber, come out. Oh. Not there, Mr. Naruhodo. But I don't understand. You could always climb inside yourself. Please, don't mind us. Do go ahead. I know how fond you are of wardrobes. I'll think of something else, thank you very much. He's not in a wardrobe. The safe is the only other place I could think of. Yeah, it has to be the safe then, but...
Take that!
Before we gain access to this back room, we heard noises from in here. Which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at that point in time. He was in fact searching for the combination to his safe. And pressed for time, made no attempt to right the furniture that he overturned in the process. From which we can deduce that his search for the combination happened very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Drebber is at this very moment inside the safe. This concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. Let's open the safe then. I think he would suffocate in there. So, Mr. Naruhodo. I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide-and-seek, don't you? By opening the safe, you mean. What else? Let's see. The combination was 1432582. I knew that. Alright then. Here goes. Okay, I'm scared to open that safe. How could somebody fit in there? Oh, there he is. You found me. What the hell is he doing? It's like a robot. Right then, sir. Mr. Enoch Drebber, I presume. Correct. You better start talking, you trick Professor Hairbrayne with that bogus machine you built. And you shall have to explain the theft of the waxwork from Madame Tussfels as well. Whilst I would be delighted to answer your many questions. Personally, I would advise that you deactivate my little parcel first. Deactivate. Your parcel, he means the bomb. I refer, of course, to the time bomb I left in the most prominent position. Ah. Ha ha ha, I see. Stunned silence. You're all gearing up to die with me then. No. Mr. Sholmes, with only 7 seconds to spare, that was too close for comfort. I've got 1 foot in the grave already. Are you trying to help us get a killer or get us killed? Mr. Sholmes' deductions can be completely life-altering, can't they? So the bomb was real. Well, my dear fellows, that was a close shave. The resemblance to an anti-gravity device is really quite startling, I must say. Anti-gravity devices don't exist. Ooh, I wouldn't push it, Mr. Sholmes. What happened here? What on earth happened in here? You found me, haven't you? No need to screw me down any further. Everything in here is precisely what it seems. Yeah, well, we'll be giving it thoroughly going over, don't you worry, Drebber. What fails to click with me is how you were able to locate my workshop that I was not expecting. When I heard whistling from the other room, I knew it was time to bolt. Whistling. Ah, that would have been me. Oh, of course Mr. Sholmes had to make all the noise. For some reason, I woke up in a fine fettle today. No words, just tightly squeezed chips. Clearly I must have a screw loose though, as I couldn't remember the combination for the safe. Another one loose, as I couldn't remember on which piece of furniture I'd written it down. We also found a rope over by the wall. Yes, I had hoped to exit through the skylight, but sadly the rope was too short. So I then set about searching for the combination code to open the safe. And burning the incriminating blueprints, don't forget. Regrettably though, you failed to retrieve the head from the balloon among the rafters. And after that, you hid yourself inside the safe, having first set this parcel ticking. Well, I had no intention of being nailed by the police. Got a death wish, have ya? Hiding right beside the ticking time bomb. Well, he was in the safe, so I don't know if he necessarily would have gotten hurt, depending on how strong the safe was. Please, why do you suppose I chose to hide inside the safe? It's no ordinary safe, it's specially designed. A dynamite explosion wouldn't leave a scratch on it. So in fact, the safe was the only safe place. Ah, that's a bad line. Precisely. But once you climb inside, you wouldn't have been able to get out again. I invite you to look more closely. The safe is fitted with a handle on the inside to allow the door to be unlocked from within. Ah, so it is. I had always intended to blow this place to smithers in any case. I just wasn't expecting uninvited guests to come along and screw up my plans. Do you mean to say you were planning to blow us all up? No, that was unforeseen. What do you mean? Most people run, you see, when they see a ticking time bomb at their feet. Ah, I calculated the time required for retreat to a safe distance and set the device accordingly. But your seemingly endless discourse in here threw a spanner in the works. Gregson isn't happy right now. Is something wrong, Gregson? Do I have something on my face besides the usual eyes, ears, and nose and mouth? I think we have a fairly good idea of what's been going on here now. But what about the two incidents you've evidently been involved in recently? Professor Hairbrayne's instantaneous kinesis experiment at the Great Exhibition. And the waxwork model you stole, which this head belongs to. I'm really curious if I can examine this for any more stuff here. Is there anything else I can look at it for? No, I don't think there's any clues on this here. That's no ordinary head, you know. That's the head of the professor. Clad in a mask with a lock so strong, I'm unable to open it safely to reveal the killer's identity. So the killer, he didn't put the metal mask on. The metal mask was always there. I've been considering carrying it around as protection. After all, that's enough. What is she doing here? She's the coroner. What's going on here, Gregson? I'm sure you're aware that I have sole jurisdiction to investigate here. Yes. Well, Dr. Sif again. So the forensic investigation team are here. And you know full well this engineer is a key witness. Why are you allowing this lawyer access to him? If Lord Strongheart knew of this, you'd be finished. You lot, leave at once. My dear madam, there's no need for such a threatening tone, I assure you. After all, that's no way to greet an old acquaintance, is it, Dr. Sif? Hello, Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes knows Dr. Sif. If it's protecting the machine next door that's causing such a sour expression on your face, you are quite misguided. It's really nothing more than a shell, you... Get out. But of course, we'll show ourselves the door. I see you haven't softened at all. Mr. Naruhodo, yes? It would appear that our delightful, entertaining investigations have run their course for today. But Mr. Sholmes, let us leave this place in the doctor's capable hands. I said get out now. All of you. Your presence here is not required either, Gregson. Understood. But I'll just say one thing before I head off. If it wasn't for this lawyer and his companions, we'd never have found this place, and the whole workshop would have been blown to bits. There was a time bomb set in here that this lot disarmed. Inspector, you know, he finally said something good. He actually finally said something good. That was definitely reliable. Nothing to say now. What's that? Something giving you a chuckle, has it, Drebber? Ah, so sorry. Didn't mean to offend. You're quite right, of course. You did disarm the time bomb, didn't you? Yes, you did disarm that one. What does he mean, that one? What are you... That one? Yeah, you mean... Wait, what? Oh no. Oh no. The machine got blown up. It was an hour later that we heard the news. What the enormous explosion that ripped through the experimentation stage at the Great Exhibition. Professor Hairbrayne's invention and all its secrets were blown away forever. Oh no. Great. To be continued. Well, I guess we'll see where this goes now. This is getting ridiculous right now. Drebber definitely has something to do with it. He wasn't denying too much though. But I guess we'll see where this leads us to. But I'm wondering now the professor's identity. So that mask, that metal mask was never opened. So you never know who the actual person was. So the government put that mask on to hide the killer's identity. So the killer must have been somebody important for the government to hide his identity. I'm really curious though. I wonder if the killer could possibly be Barrick's brother. That's the thing what I'm wondering about. Because the government could have told Barrick that his brother had been murdered by the killer, when in fact his brother maybe was the killer. That's definitely a possibility. So I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see. That's what I'm curious about, if the professor is Barrick's brother. But we're gonna have to see. I'm sure they will reveal the serial killer's identity coming up. So thank you guys for watching. I guess we're gonna go to trial in the next part. Drebber is probably gonna testify, and it's probably gonna be a really really hard testimony. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.